Hello, 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 everybody. Good morning, Sofa Squad. I hope y'all are doing wonderful. How is everybody out there doing? Y'all already know the drill. If you can hear me, drop a number one in the comment section so I know I'm not just talking to myself. Pretty please. Thank you. I do appreciate it. Let me mute myself over here. I hope everybody is doing wonderful this morning. Y'all already know what we're going to be doing up in here. The Imster says one. Avery Shungle says one. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Donette says one. Everybody, welcome Miss Indie Girl to the stage, to the sofa. She's helping keep the sofa cushions fluffed, pillows done nicely with that little chop thing in the middle of them. I hope everybody is doing well this morning. So y'all, what we're going to be doing is doing a read-through of this. Now, I just finished recording the video. When I tell you, I'm talking massive, like every 5 minutes, the dogs. I've got to learn when to record at this point because the dogs, see, they're sleeping now because I quit recording, but let me tell you what, I'm talking, playing, all the fun stuff or whatever. I thought I wore them out with their little training session this morning. Pardon me, but they were still ready to go. Hello, Tori. Good morning. Y'all, welcome Miss Tori to the stage. Welcome her to the sofa. She's helping keep the sofa cushions fluffed and the pillows nice and fluffy as well. I do appreciate y'all joining and helping out. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to be doing a read through of this. Now, it's like 87 pages, so we're just gonna try and like get through it. I'm gonna do like the edited version of it for the other channel. It'll probably be next week before I can get it up. So like if you don't like the live vibe or whatever, this we're probably gonna say I'm gonna make some commentary along the way because there's some key parts that I think are important to talk about. So just know that. So the people we're dealing. So let's talk about who we're dealing with in this. This is the Sarah Boone case. This is the video deposition transcript of Dr. Werner. Dr. Werner was the state's expert on the stand that got, all the objections done to her. They had to do the in courtroom deposition, all that, right? So the main characters talking are her, then Owens, Sarah's lawyer, and then Jay, the state attorney. But it's mostly Sarah Boone's lawyer, Owen, and Dr. Werner. So just know that. And that's kind of it. Tomorrow morning, pardon me, at 9 a.m., we're going to do a members chat, opening up Sofa Squad mail, that kind of stuff. I'll post those links and whatnot on the member side and on Patreon. So we'll do that later. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, look for that later or whatever. So that's it. So there you go. So I'm going to go over to this screen right here. Hello, John. How's it going? What's going on? Hey, Leslie. I'm just reading your comments real quick. And y'all, yesterday, so I missed a couple of people's super chats. If I'm on the other screen, I don't see them and they'll disappear. So I apologize. I know Chrissy sent one. I emailed her. I can't remember who else. But I apologize for that. But I missed it. So a lot of times, like when I'm going to be reading, I won't see stuff pop up. So just, I'm not like intentionally ignoring you or whatever. I apologize for that. Wow, John's just getting off work. Woo, Lord mercy. I hope you get some good sleep in. Okay, where are we at? Where are we at? Well, I'm trying to find my screen here. Here it is. Okay, so oh wait, that's what I'm doing. Please hold, I'm all over the place. You can't trust me with this kind of technology. There we go, Okay, you can see this better. Now this is done, I call it script, okay? But it's done, it's a transcript, right? So, there's that. So you see the defendant, Orlando, Florida, October 4th, 2024, right? Let's jump into it. Now, direct examination. So this is Mr. Owens and Dr. Werner. So the questions are obviously Mr. Owens, answers her. Okay, so Dr. Werner? Yes, sir. Yes, this is James Owen again. Oh, wait, time out. Just to remind everybody, this is video. This is a video done, so just know that's why it might sound kind of weird. Okay, so Dr. Werner? Yes, sir. Yes, this is James Owen again, and as you know, I represent the Sarah the Boones. Yes, sir. Would you please state your full name and spell your last? My name is Tanya, Tlia, Werner, Werner. And can you give us your address? She states the address. She's from Gainesville, offices there. And what is the name of the facility you work at? Meridian Behavior Healthcare. Are you a partner there? You own the business? No, it's non-profit. I work for them. What do you mean by this non-profit? It's a not-for-profit. Okay, so you don't get paid a salary by them. No, I do. It's a non-profit organization. Like the Salvation Army is non-profit. It's a non-profit organization, a community mental health center. Okay, so how long you work for them? Almost 10 years, since 2015. All right. Now, what did you do before that? I was at the University of Florida on faculty as an associate professor and vice chairman of the Department of Psychiatry and the director of the Forensic Institute at the University of Florida. How long you been there? Well, from 1998 to 2015 when I retired. Prior to that, I was in my psychiatric training. And where was that? I did my residency at Connecticut Valley Hospital in Middleton, Connecticut, where the auspicious, I don't know how to say that word, auspicious of Yale University. I did 4 years of training there, and then I came to the University of Florida and did 1 year fellowship in forensic psychiatry. And I'm a board certified in general and forensic psychiatry. Please hold, y'all. What'd you do prior to your residency? I attended medical school. Where'd you go to medical school? American University of the Caribbean. American University in the Caribbean? Of the Caribbean, correct. Where is that? At the time I went there, it was in Plainview, Texas. I believe now it's on St. Martin, but it had been hit by a hurricane, and they had relocated to the mainland of the United States at the time that I attended. Why did you choose that school? I actually had not finished my undergraduate degree, and they accepted me. I got waitlisted at the University of South Florida, and they accepted me at the American University of the Caribbean. And they were in Texas, so I was just anxious to go, and I went. And prior to that, well, during my first semester of medical school, I completed my bachelor's degree. Now, where'd you complete the bachelor's? So I got my bachelor's degree it's from the University of South Florida, but I took a couple of courses to complete it through Maryland Baptist University, which is where the medical school was being housed at the time on the mainland. So you were able to complete your bachelor's there in Texas and then stayed on the campus for now there's some kind of technicality here. And then we go back to Mr. Owens. Dr. Warner, I didn't live on campus. I had housing. I had a house that I rented off campus. But our courses, we used their facility. We leased, I guess, the school leased of part of their facility of the university. And who is we? What do you mean, who is we? You just said we leased the school. No. Then I changed it to the school because I had nothing to with it. So I assumed the school leased part of the facility of Baptist University where we were housed. Okay, so you got accepted. You finished off your undergrad. You got accepted. The school was right there. Okay, so you just started. Okay, started your postgraduate. Correct. I did my first 2 years, in a classroom, learning there in Texas, and then went to Connecticut and did all my clinicals in Connecticut. Okay, please hold. Okay, here we go. Okay, there we go. Okay, now as it relates to the Sarah the Boones, my client, obviously we understand that you evaluated her. Was it yesterday or the day before? Well, day before yesterday, correct? Okay. Now, was that at the Orange County Jail? Yes. And that was with 2 prosecutors and myself? That's correct. How long was the evaluation? It was approximately 2 hours and 20 minutes. And did you do any of the testing? I did a mental status examination. What is a mental status examination called? A mental status examination. That's it. That's it. That's what it's called. And what else you do besides that test? Interviewed her. Is that customary in the field? Yes. Now, how long have you been on this case? Oh, gosh, I'm not sure when they first contacted me, in all honesty. Well, the event occurred in February 2020. Do you know if you were contacted during the year of 2020? No, sir, I was not. I was contacted this calendar year. So you haven't been involved with this case at all until 2024. That's correct. I seem to remember they had retained an expert, a potential rebuttal expert, prior to me coming in. I came in on the case in late August 2024. I seem to recall that they already had a rebuttal witness. You were not involved in any way prior to me coming in August 2024. Oh, I'm not sure. I've set this calendar year, which is 2024, so I very well may have been on board before you came on. Yeah. Do you have any notes that would reflect? Do you have any notes that would reflect in your file about when you came on? It would probably be in my calendar somewhere when I first had a phone conference with them or in an email. I'll have to look for it. Can you check that and get back to me, either me or the prosecutor, about when you first came on this case? Yes. All right now. And what all did you do to get up to speed on the case to be able to evaluate her and then diagnose her and then render opinions? So I reviewed some documents that were referred to me and I evaluated her at the jail. All right. Now, how many documents were you asked to review? I was provided with the Orange County Sheriff's Office investigative report. How many pages is that? There's several different printouts. It's like 150. Okay, no, I take that back. 50. I have 58 pages of that. Okay. I have a transcript of a taped interview of Sarah Boone. Now, hold on. Is that the transcript of that 2-hour interrogation at the Orange County Jail? I don't know if it was an interrogation or not. The title of the document is Transcript of Taped Interview of Sarah Boone. It was from February 24th of 2020. Okay, how many pages was that? Again, there's several different printouts, and the last page I have is 177. Okay, now what other documents did you review? I have another transcript of a taped interview of Sarah Boone. This one I have dated as February 25th, and that one is 394 pages, but it may be a continuation of the other ones because it's not dated at the top. I hand wrote that one on, so I don't know. Let me see at the back. If I got it from the back of it, where I got the date from, no, it's not dated on the back either. So I'm not sure where I got that date from. That may just be miswritten, and it may have also been part of the February 24th one. Okay, go on now. Well, then I have medical records from Aspire Health, and I have, okay, now hold on right there now. The medical records, number 4 document was the medical records from Aspire Health, who was treated in the records, Sarah Boone. They have dates on that treatment. October 25th, 2018 was the last one, or the first one is January 23rd, 2018. Okay, now, I believe that was number 4, the medical records. What's next? Then I have the medical records from Ciox Health, spelled C-I-O, spelled C-I-O-X. C-I-O-X, this is the Advent Health, it looks like. Who was the patient? Sarah Boone. What were the dates? January 13th, 2020 was the first one. And let me make sure. January 23rd, 2018 was the last date it appears. Here's another one from, because they're not in order, I guess, July 2009, I mean. I don't have the dates written down, so I'm flipping through it. Was that for some type of psychological? That was an emergency room. I've lost that page already. Some of them are psychiatric and some of them are not. July 2009 was an emergency room visit that she was started on clindamycin, or an antibiotic, so I doubt that was psychiatric. Okay, now anything else about them records? No. Okay, hold on one second. I'm gonna find catch up with y'all real quick. I want to say one thing about this stuff so far, whatever, that's interesting to me is, like, notice how she has the doctor, whatever, that slight, like, sarcasm that she has with him. You know what I'm saying? Sorry, I had to get a sip of that. She has that, like, dry sarcasm. So, like, she already had this. And when we met her in the courtroom, she was all like, she didn't like this man from the get-go, right? And it gets where, like, when he starts messing up definitions with her, you're gonna see, like, where she is serving it to him thick and heavy, right? She does not like him at all. Okay, now let me get back to the thing. So here we go. Okay, here we go, page 13. All right, now what else did you review? Well, then there were printed out, but there's two printed out sections of it. It looks like text messages and location pings off of a cell phone, I assume. They're not labeled, it's just, there's two of them. Okay, what are the dates, beginning and ending of both of them? Well, one starts December 25th, 2019 and goes through February 24th, 2020. And those are the text messages from Sarah Boone's phone. You know what? The numbers aren't labeled, so I would assume so from reading the text messages, but it's not labeled that way. All right. Now, can you tell when Sarah is texting and when somebody else is responding back? Well, it says who, what number it's coming from, so it shows like if it's going from that phone or to the phone, yes. There is a way to tell that, but I can't tell you who is texting. Were you able to tell when Sarah was texting? When the messages was coming from her phone, what I assumed to be her phone, yes. Yeah, okay, you considered that in your evaluation? No, you're asking me what I reviewed. I'm telling you what I reviewed. Okay, you didn't consider these text messages in your evaluation. I was aware of them, but they're not necessarily overly relevant. Pardon me. Okay, so the first set was from December 25th, 2019 to February 24th, 2020. Correct. And then the second set of text, February 15th, 2018 through December 23rd, 2019. Okay, and did you consider those text messages in your evaluation? I mean, I read through them, so I'm aware of what's in there. And I'm aware that they, they had relationship issues and that she was, taking pictures and that they were fighting over the text. And, I'm aware of relationship issues going on back and forth reading the text. Okay, was there anything from them text messages that stuck out to you that caused you to pause and feel like, that may have some impact on your evaluations? No, as I said, it made me aware that they had a volatile relationship. I mean, in some of them there are capital letters coming from her, cursing at him, calling him an idiot, effing idiot for overdrafting, and, there are some referring to domestic violence and, injuries. I mean, there are different text messages in there that demonstrated they had a violent relationship, a volatile relationship. Would you consider that in your evaluation? Of course. Okay. Now, anything that sticks out to you other than what you've indicated? No. All right. Now, what else did you review? That's it. Okay. So I've got the number one, I've got the investigative report that you said was 58 pages. Number two, I've got a transcript that was of Sarah Boone, an interview with the Sarah Boones that was 177 pages. Number three, I've got a transcript that was an interview of Sarah Boone that is 394 pages. Then number four, I've got the medical records from Aspire Health. The patient was the Sarah Boones, and the dates were from January to October of 2018. Okay, now number five, I've got medical records where Sarah Boone was the patient at the Seahawks Health or Advent Health. Okay, now it looks like the records were from potentially July 2009 all the way up to January 13th, 2020. Okay, then number six, okay, I've got a printout of text messages, two sets, one that are from December 2019 to February 2020, which you believe you can interpret the messages that came from Sarah Boone. And then a second set from, no, that's misstating what I said. Wait, Tell me what you mean then. I said I can tell which messages came from the phone that's attributed to Sarah Boone. I did not say I knew they came from Sarah. Okay. Do you have any reason to believe they wouldn't have come from Sarah, the ones that you attributed to her phone? I have no idea who typed them in. How would I know? Okay. But there is nothing. There's nothing to indicate that to you that they wouldn't have come from the Sarahs if they weren't from Sarah's phone, correct? I would assume so, but I mean, I'm not stating that I know they came from Sarah. I understand. Okay. But you've been advised that that's the number that was Sarah's phone number? Nobody told me that. I assumed from them when I received the records and reviewing them that was her phone number. Okay. That this is Sarah's phone number. Okay, and then it looks like there was a second set of printout of text messages from February 15th, 2018 to December 23rd, 2019 that appeared to be text messages relating to Sarah. Sarah Boone's phone as well. Correct, the same number. Okay, and from that last, number 6, the printout of them text messages, what you described or what you determined was they were having relationship issues or a volatile relationship. They were fighting. There were pictures that would indicate it was a volatile relationship. Yes, there were descriptions of things. Anything else that you can glean from them text messages, those 2 sets of text messages about Sarah or, okay, y'all, now hold on one second, y'all, while I rehydrate over here now. Please hold. Now, I get this kind of is obviously off to a slow start. They're getting through the stuff. You know what I'm saying? Please hold. But again, you see kind of her little thing or whatever. Thank you, Cosmos, for the gifted membership. Okay, let me get back to it. No. Okay, anything else you reviewed? No, sir. Have you reviewed any videotapes? I have not. Have you reviewed any audio tapes? I have not. Have you reviewed the autopsy report? I have not. Okay. It may have been in the investigative, well, hang on, because it may have been in with it, the investigative report. I know I've at least seen a description of it at some point. So described in the incident report. No, I don't see it in here. So I know that it was probably described in here when they went back to talk to her the second day, because I know they talked about it with her. Okay. Now, and did you receive any medical records from George Torres? No, I did not. And explain to me exactly, what is your title? I'm the Chief Medical Officer. What does that mean? It means that I'm in charge of all of the medical staff. Is your job basically like an administrative duties? That's a portion of it, but that's probably the smallest portion of my job. Okay, so then what are the other parts of your job besides that small portion for administration? Yes, so I work 7 days a week on the Crisis Stabilization Unit in Lake City, Florida. I run that unit. We have approximately 30 patients there that I see during the week and on the weekends and holidays. Are those, go ahead. Are those patients that have come in over the weekend, are they in some sort of form of like crisis? They come in and out, yes, sir. Okay, is there a limited amount of time that they can stay at the facility in Lake City? There's no specific limited amount of time. We are a short-term treatment facility. We're a Baker Act receiving facility, so majority of our patients are on Baker Act. Our average length of stay is typically probably 3 to 5 days. We do have some outliers that do stay much longer than that. If we're holding them specifically to transfer to another facility, such as one of the state hospitals, they will end up staying longer than that. But our typical patients will only stay, I would say 3 to 5 days, maybe a week, long enough. That would be, okay, would it be fair to say that's probably like 95% of the patients in that facility stay just like short term? It's actually probably 60 to 65%. Okay. And you would treat them by talking to them and like medication? Correct. We have therapists, we have recreational therapy, we have psychotherapy, we have medication management with them. We do family therapy, so we try to address all their issues. Okay, so now, how much of your workload would you say is attributed to the Lake City Crisis Stabilization Facility? Well, Monday through Friday, I'm there 50% of my time. So every morning, and then I'm there on the weekends in the morning also. So more than 50% of my time is related to that. All right, now, what's the other time? My forensic work. Now, what do you mean by forensic work? Well, so forensic psychiatry is an area of psychiatry where psychiatry intersects with the law. So anytime there's a legal case that has some sort of psychiatric question, whether it be in the civil arena or the criminal arena, are you a psychiatrist? Yes, sir. Okay, now I know we've got a couple of experts on our side. Dr. Julie Harper, you know her? I do not. You know what her title is? I believe she's a psychologist, isn't she? I think a forensic psychologist. Now, the other expert we got is Michael Brandon. Okay, you know him? I do not. Okay, you know what his title is? I do not. I think he is a forensic psychologist as well. Okay. Do you okay, explain to me the difference, okay, between your position as a forensic psychiatrist and their position as a forensic psychologist. Okay, so I'm an MD and they're not. Well, what are they? They're they can be PsyDs, they can be PhDs, but they're not MDs. They didn't go to medical school, so they typically do. Psychologists typically do therapy, but they don't prescribe medication or understand medical issues, so to speak. Yeah, but they typically do testing, psychological testing, and therapy. Is there a big difference in the roles? The two separate roles, psychiatrist and psychologist, and their roles for what? For treatment? In the forensic field, sure. I mean, we're both asked to do evaluations. They do testing, psychological testing when it's indicated, which is not always indicated. If there is a cognitive issues going on, they can do that. Personality issues, they can come into play with regards to psychological testing can be helpful. There, where we have a better understanding of the medications and any medical aspects of the individuals. Okay. And then you said that you said you do administrative roles, and then you said you do like 50% or more of your work is at the Lake City, Florida Crisis Stabilization Center. And then you said you do forensic work as a forensic psychiatrist. What percentage of your work is as a forensic psychiatrist? I have no idea. It's probably like 45%. Okay, that would involve, go ahead, 45% of your work is forensic psychiatry. Probably 50-50. It just depends on the week, in all honesty. Because if I have a trial going on, or a lot of depositions, or, traveling to Orlando to see somebody, then, I shift things around. More time may be dedicated this week to forensic work as opposed to, I may have somebody cover patients one day, so I do less clinical work this week. It just depends on the week. So as a forensic psychiatrist doing this forensic work, I mean, is it mostly like related to competency to proceed? I do a lot of competency to proceed, yes. I also do a lot of guardianship evaluations. Those are probably the majority of the work that I do, in all honesty. Okay, now guardianship evaluations. I assume that's where families have filed some petition with the court that one of their family members, they don't have the ability to care for themselves or manage their affairs, so to speak, for themselves, and asking the court to make a determination and appoint one of the family members to oversee. Yes, typically it's the family that files, or more recently it's been facilities. So I think that there's been some kind of change maybe in their ability to get reimbursed from different pay sources unless they seek guardianship of individuals. So if there are individuals in their facility that don't have families, the facilities will file to have a guardianship and to have a guardian appointed. So if they're in a nursing home or somewhere like that, correct, yes, okay. And literally over the last 2 years, the majority of the evaluations have been coming from facilities, and it's been a higher number. So I think something has changed with regards to their payer sources, honestly. Like, y'all please hold for a second. I gotta get a sub. For everybody just joining, hello, welcome. We are reading through. Hey Chrissy, I'm so glad I clicked over. I hope you got my email. I'm sorry I missed your thing yesterday. I hope you're doing well. I sent you an email. For those just joining, we are reading through Dr. Werner's video deposition of the Sarah Boone case or whatever. So there's that. Now that being said, let's keep going. So I'm reading between James Owens and the doctor. Okay, so what percentage would you say of your forensic psychiatry work is related to either guardianship or the competency proceedings? Oh, I don't know. I don't keep track of it that way in all honesty. Well, go on, take your best guess. Probably half my forensic work is made up by those two. Please hold. Apologize. The Coca-Cola's talking to me. Okay. All right. Now, what's the other half? Well, I do sanity at the time of the crime. I do competency to be executed evaluations. I'm appointed by the governor to do those. I do personal injury cases. I do medical malpractice. I did a lot of the tobacco cases against big tobacco. So just any number. Anything in the... Okay, so have you ever testified in court? Numerous times, yes. How many times would you say you testified? Hundreds, if not over 1,000, numerous lots. In criminal cases, criminal and civil, yes. What percentage of the times you've testified were in criminal cases? In court? I'm not sure. In all honesty, I have no idea. Would it be less than 20? No, no. Well, give us I'm guessing. Okay. I'm completely guessing it would probably be 60%. Okay, and is that mainly incompetency to proceed type cases? Mainly because those are the most common. Although I have to say that they are not. They did not used to be the most common, and that they're the most common evaluations I do, but they were not typically the most common evaluations that would have testimony. Because in the past they would get 3 evaluations and not have testimony. But here more recently, they've only been doing 2 evaluation and having testimony. Okay, so a lot of times you want to testify, you would just like submit a report. Correct. And that would be sufficient. I mean, it would be accepted by both parties. Your opinions. Yes. Okay. Now, and then you said you've done some work outside the criminal arena. You said that's about 50% of the work you do of the civil work. Again, I'm guessing, so I don't remember the percentage I assigned to that because I'm just guessing. Okay, now in the criminal cases, do you testify primarily for the state? I'm called by both sides. All right. How many times have you been called by the defense as a witness in a trial? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I've been doing this for 20-something years. I have absolutely no idea. You don't keep any kind of records of that? No, sir. Are you asked about that from time to time by lawyers about work you've done? Yes. Okay. Now, in criminal cases, what opinions are you asked to render? I think we just went through that. Competency to proceed, sanity at the time of the crime. Okay, now, and you think the percentage that you testify for the state's about 50-50 with the time you spent testifying for the defense? It's probably more weighted towards the state. The times, depends on your question. The times I've been hired is probably more weighted towards the state. The times that I've testified, actually, I have no idea. Because again, a lot of the times I don't testify. Okay, now, and what have you been? You said you testified as an expert, okay. Have you testified, I assume, as an expert those hundreds of times, almost 1,000 times as an expert? Yes, I also testify every weekend as a treating physician through our Baker Act court. Okay, well, I'm referring right now to criminal trials in which there is a jury that's been impaneled. Sure. What would you qualify as an expert to testify about? I've been qualified to testify with regards to psychiatric issues, anything under the umbrella of forensic psychiatry. So any type of psychiatric issue that they're having questions about, competency questions, diagnosis. Well, I know usually in a criminal case, it would involve competency or either insanity. Correct. Are there any other ways that you would be allowed to testify in a criminal case other than for competency or insanity? I have done mitigation and aggravating factors. You're talking about it sentencing? Correct, in criminal. Okay, and so you would testify that you would be what would be aggravating factors in terms of forensic psychology? I wouldn't know. You would have to ask a forensic psychologist. I'm sorry. I apologize. Forensic psychologist, psychiatrist. What would be aggravating? It could be anything. It could be anything. So you would have to give me an example. You have your statutory aggravating factors and you have, non-statutory aggravating factors. So would it be some kind of like diagnosis that you would give? No, I can't. I can comment on their upbringing, their educational background, any of those issues or factors. You're never called to testify as diagnosing somebody with some type of personality trait. Yes, I can be. As an aggravating factor or mitigator. Yes, I can be also an aggravator or mitigator, sure. Okay. Now, as it relates to that diagnosis with some type of like personality, how often are you asked to do that? Every case, as even a competency case, asks for a diagnosis. Okay, what are generally the diagnosis in some of those cases? There's no general diagnosis. Each individual is different. I mean, I don't go in with any kind of notion that there is some general diagnosis. Each individual is different. Can you give me one diagnosis that you would render in a criminal case? Schizophrenia, alcohol use. Oh, alcohol abuse or use. There's no diagnosis of alcohol abuse anymore. We don't use that. It's alcohol use disorder is the official diagnosis. Okay, now, so schizophrenia or alcohol use disorder, any other type of diagnoses? There are thousands of them. Anything in the DSM-5 TR is fair game. Any diagnosis. I understand, but there would seem to be there was some kind of common diagnosis you would have in a criminal realm that would come up before a jury. Antisocial personality disorder, but each individual is different. So some have those and some don't have those. Are you allowed to render those type of opinions before a jury? Yes. Okay. So I've got schizophrenias, I've got the alcohol use disorders, I've got the antisocial personality disorders, anything else that is common, fairly common diagnosis on your part in a criminal case. You just asked me, are there any diagnoses? I'm not telling you those are common ones on my part. Each individual is different, so I approach them and I evaluate them and diagnose them based on what presentation they have. Okay, y'all, hold on one second. I'm gonna check back in with y'all. Okay, so here's the thing. Notice how she like this whole thing about like where they're getting at each other. He's just kind of like a psychologist, psychiatrist, and she's being very specific. You know what I'm saying? Like this is that. She has that little bit of smugness because if you watched the trial, and you saw her. There's that. Now again, we haven't gotten into what I consider like the key elements of this. It's getting to it, obviously. Please hold. And when those come up, I'll stop and talk about it more. We're just trying to like get through everything. So there's that. And so side note, y'all, I just saw the talk about the instant grit talk. Okay, I'll just like chew on this for a little bit. So my favorite way to cook grits is this. Like obviously like you cook them, like boil them or whatever. Okay. I do salt, pepper, garlic powder, to where it gets a bite. I call it a bite if you know what I'm talking about, like the taste of it, and then put cheese in them. Emily, how are you? Welcome, Emily, our founder of the Sofa Squad. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a lovely morning. So chew on them grits for a minute, okay? I'm gonna go back to reading. Please help. Okay, anything else you want to say about your testimony that you feel like makes you an expert in the field in which you're about to render opinions? No, I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have. Have you ever testified in a battered spouse syndrome situation? I have. How many times? I think I've testified recently to the fact that it was between 5 and 10 times. But after I testified to that, in thinking about it, it's actually involved in a lot of cases where it actually isn't the kind of main focus of the case. So I think the number is higher than that. All right. But you believe the fair estimate will be between 5 and 10 times. No, I just said I believe it's more than that. Okay, but you've testified that somebody suffers as a battered spouse. Suffers or didn't under that syndrome. Correct. So if it's not like 5 to 10, I mean, what would the number be? I'm not sure. Again, I didn't keep track of that over however long I've done that. But a lot of, intimate violence cases involved. Would you say under 20? I'm not sure. Well, ma'am, you got to give me some type of number. I'm not sure. Would you say under 50? Yes, probably under 50. Okay. So you think you've testified about battered spouse syndrome in 50 cases before a jury. I didn't say before a jury. It may have been a bench trial. I said that, and it might have been a deposition, but I believe I've testified with regards to that, yes. Wait, hold on. Okay, in front of a jury, how many times have you testified as an expert about battered spouse syndrome? No idea. Would it be less than 10? I have absolutely no idea. I'd be guessing. I mean, I'm just guessing at these numbers, so I have no idea. Well, how long have you been rendering opinions that people suffer from the battered spouse syndromes? Since my training. Excuse me? Since my training in 1998. We were trained on it. All right. Well, what training have you received regarding the battered spouse, the syndromes? So we received training on it during our psychiatric residency and I'm very active in the Florida Psychiatric Society and actually presented numerous times on domestic violence at their meetings. Yeah, please hold for 1 second. I gotta check this. Okay, sorry. All right, now tell me about the training at the psychiatric residency. What was the training regarding battered spouse? Just generalized training, just like learning about antidepressants. We learn about generalized anxiety disorder. So we have training that's was there a class on that or just like some seminar or something on it? Yes, we would have seminars. We had lectures during the week as residents. Okay, all right. We go to the lecture series, and we would have been lectured on that, correct? So during the psychiatric residency, how much time did you spend on lectures on battered spouse syndrome? I have no idea. That was like 20 something years ago. No idea. Would you say less than 10? I have no idea. Okay, would it be possible it was less than 10 hours? No, not over a 4-year period of time. No. Okay, you didn't take any class on battered spouse syndrome, did you? Not sure what you mean by that. Did you take a course during your psychological residency that was on battered spouse syndrome? I didn't do a psychological residency. I did a psychiatric residency. And yes, that's what I'm telling you. It was part of our lecture series, yes. Okay, then you mentioned Florida Psychiatric Society. That's correct. And what training did you receive in regards to that? I didn't. I gave the training on battered spouse syndrome, on domestic violence, and that was included in the training, correct? All right, now where did you learn about the battered spouse, the syndromes? I think we just talked about it, and I also did research online with my presentation partner. So we would update our slides because we did the presentation. So as part of your licensing for the state of Florida, to maintain your medical license, you have mandatory continued medical education courses that you have to take. And one of them is a 2-hour domestic violence course you have to complete every 2 years when you renew your license. So we would present it every 2 years at the Florida Psychiatric Society meetings to provide that for our members, that education, so that they would have that for their relicensing. And we did that for, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 year cycles before we handed that off to somebody else to do the presentation. So you would actually do the presenting to other medical professionals for their CMEs, for their credits on domestic violence? That's correct. Okay, now, do you have any of them slides or PowerPoints? I do not. Dr. Jennery may still have them because we stopped doing it about 4 or 5 years ago. I believe we handed that off. I can see if Dr. Jennery has them still. Is she with your office? No. She is a psychiatrist at North Florida Regional Medical Center. Is that in Jacksonville? No, sir, it's here in Gainesville. Okay, now spell her last name. Ginory. Okay, all right. Now, as it relates to the Sarah the Boons, do you have any diagnosis as it relates to her? Again, now y'all hold on 1 second because we're getting ready now. This is the part of we're getting ready to start getting into the tea, if you will. Okay, let me go home and hydrate up for this now. One thing that I want to say real quick before we get into it that's interesting to me, learning these cases and whatnot, is like this right here, where you're seeing how these different things work. Of like the technical term for battered spouse syndrome, and is it a diagnosis, is it a condition, or something? All these different things that we learn about. Because one thing when we were watching the trial, pardon me, is I was just like in the beginning, like as y'all know, I was like, oh, she might walk, right? But then once the judge broke it down towards the end, I was like, oh no, no, because I wasn't correctly informed on exactly the parameters of the battered spouse syndrome. You know what I'm saying? So please hold. So I just thought that was interesting. Okay, here we go. Please hold. I said, please hold. Number one. I said, please hold. Okay, so here we go. Answer. No, she told me that she was previously diagnosed with general anxiety disorder, so that would be in there. She's being prescribed an anxiolytic, pardon me, to help treat her symptoms. Whether it's generalized anxiety disorder versus an adjustment disorder, to her being in the facility is questionable for me, in all honesty. But I haven't had time to go through everything thoroughly since I just saw her 2 days ago and process everything, in all honesty. I think that she has also narcissistic personality traits, was evident in the evaluation, and those would be my two major diagnoses. So okay, from my understanding, what you just said was this. Okay, I agree with the general anxiety disorder that she has been diagnosed with. No, I said it would be a generalized anxiety disorder versus an adjustment disorder, and that I hadn't had time to fully formulate that opinion out. What do you need? I need time to go through my notes and think about it and process it. But I had other depositions, as you're aware, yesterday, so I had to prepare for those and go through that. So I've not had time to process through all my notes prior to this deposition today. Well, doctor, now I'm not trying to inconvenience you, okay? You know the judge set for October 7th for jury selection, okay? But I don't anticipate your testimony will be until later. You know, maybe we could just continue your deposition and then reset it when you've had the time to review. Because, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to want to take your deposition and then you have other opinions that are not going to be covered. Mr. J, what's your position? Okay, now y'all, pause right here. There's two things going on here, okay? Remember, fast forward now, blip in time to the actual trial, okay? Remember when this popped off in court? If you watch this along, you know this popped off in court. Oh my gosh, we have to do an in-court deposition. She's bringing up information. Now, I'm going to bat for everybody in this situation because you'll see what I'm saying. Each of the parties involved, and who are each of the parties I'm talking about? Owens, Dr. Warner, and Jay the State. All the stuff that we saw in the courtroom is getting ready to be fleshed out and discussed here. So it was like all of this was covered, and then they all acted like almost like this conversation didn't happen, right? So just so two things going on to pay attention to here. The valuations she's going to be talking about, and then also didn't they sit here and like review, like they literally said, what if this happens? And then it happened in court, and it's like, Owens acted like this was some strange anomaly, and I'm like, but you talked about it in the thing. This was a big shocker for me when I read this. I was like, wait a minute, they knew this. This wasn't a surprise in the moment. So that being said, first, please hold. Hey, Dr. Barry. I hope you're doing well. Dr. Barry, you need to come on, or some. We need to do something and talk about this, like on a live chat at some point. Um, I think Cindy, I appreciate it. Cindy says Owens has one regret in life: taking on I mean, honestly, he couldn't do that last motion quick enough to get rid of her. Okay, that new trial thing or whatever. Okay, so here we go. Here we're now again. Now, Mr. J, the state is talking. Well, conducting discovery after the jury trial starts is completely unacceptable to me. I mean, that's my position. If she needs to issue a supplemental report, or if there becomes a need for a second deposition, then we can address that. But it would be my position that we need to get this done, because the state doesn't have any appellate rights once the jury is sworn and jeopardy attaches. Okay, we're going back to Mr. Owens. Well, now you obviously understand my position. Okay, I'd like to finish the deposition today as well. But if she's holding out that she may have some other opinions, other diagnoses after she has had more time to think, review the paperwork, then obviously that creates an issue, Dr. Warner. But if that happens, I can bring that forward, and then you can add to your deposition at that point. My opinions change after having reviewed further. Mr. J, I think we need to plow ahead. This is our time with her. The court reporter is prepared to give us a transcript by the end of the weekend, and if something needs to be amended, then she can A, issue a report, and then B, if you need to take a deposition, an abbreviated deposition on the limited subject matter she is not prepared to testify about to him today, then we can do that. But the notion of halting the deposition today that is set for 3 hours and then doing a 3-hour deposition during trial, especially after jeopardy is attached, is not what the state would do. Just keep all that in mind, okay? Just know this right here. It is what it is. I mean, like, there's no way that you could take on this case at this point in time and get a psychiatrist, all this stuff in here, and have all this stuff. I mean, it is what it is. Pardon me. Mr. Owens, hold on. I'm not suggesting that, Mr. J. I'm suggesting what you just said at the very beginning, which is, let's finish. But if she has some supplement, then I'd want to take a brief second deposition as it relates to any new diagnoses or opinions. Okay, hold on, I have to get water. I'm sorry. Okay, what I'm understanding her to say is right now, there has been a previous diagnosis of an adjustment disorder in some of the records, and she just needs to review her records to see if she thinks that is the best diagnosis that she would give, as opposed to a generalized anxiety disorder diagnosis. Am I misstating that, Dr. Warner? Dr. Warner, it actually, you flipped them, okay? So she's saying that she has a generalized anxiety disorder, and I'm saying I want to review it more to see if I think it's more of an adjustment disorder to being in the correctional setting right now and the stressors that she is under right now, as opposed to a generalized anxiety disorder. Mr. J. Okay, so on this topic, if something new comes up, then we can address it. But if you have other topics to dispose her on, then I would suggest we go on. I agree. Now, and Dr. Warner, let me just let the state attorney know, okay? I know that you may be, we're on short time. If you do review your notes, your post-its over the weekend or whatnot and formulate any other opinions, just let the state attorney know. We'll address it Absolutely. So now here's the thing. So that whole interaction that took place, right? Now I get being up in the courtroom and doing a deposition and whatnot. It's kind of like, whoa, okay, now hold on now. But all this was gone over, and so that's where I'm like, okay, where was the breakdown? Like, how did this take place where it got all messy in court? You know what I'm saying? Um, Please hold. So that part, I'm just like, seriously? Okay, so let's go back. All right, let's keep going. Okay, okay, so we're going back to Mr. Owens. Okay, so my understanding is you believe that she does suffer from either general anxiety disorder, which is consistent with what she's already been diagnosed with, or an adjustment to the jail time as some kind of like anxiety disorder. Correct. Okay. Now, then you base that on your interview with her plus the test you gave her. My interview and her description of her presentation and what's going on with her and how she's felt since being in a correctional setting. Correct. Okay. And that test you gave her was the only test you gave to her? Correct. I did a mental status examination. Okay. And so you said that she believed she suffered from one of them, and that's your diagnosis? And then you mentioned narcissism. Okay. And that she meets some of the traits of the narcissisms. Narcissistic personality disorder traits. Correct. Okay, now tell me what criteria does she exhibit that tends to meet her as a narcissist? This part right here, y'all, you know, because I paused for a second, you know that the state attorney wanted to come over the table over the table at this part, right? And being like, let's name the things that don't qualify her for that because it's a much shorter list. Okay. Like, have you seen her just walk into the courtroom? Let's start with the body movement, right? I mean, I'm just like, come on, bro. Now, again, I'm being petty or whatever, right? I mean, it is what it is. I'm coming at it from a completely different way. Pardon me. So it is what it is. So let's keep going. Okay. Let me find where it's at. Okay. Now y'all pay attention to this because this is what she could not get out in the courtroom. Okay. Just her presentation, the way she described some of her milestones in her life and herself and her actions was in an overly kind of self-grandiose manner, so to speak. Like when I asked her, for example, how far she had gone in school, rather than say I'm a high school graduate, she said, well, I was about to sit for the entrance exams for college when my father died, so, pardon me. What does that indicate to you by stating it that way instead of just answering, hey, I graduated from high school, everybody? What does that mean? Again, it's kind of a grandiose manner of saying I only graduated from high school. I didn't go to college. But she's talking about, she was going to go to college as opposed to answering the question. So she has some insecurities because she didn't go to college, but she presents it in a different light. So the majority of her employment was as a receptionist type job, which she would describe as being a front desk person. And then she continued to always describe herself, almost every single position, as the assistant to the office manager, the assistant to the owner of the company. So it was kind of elevating her position, although she was kind of that front desk person by her description. Okay. These are just examples. And the manner that she described kind of her relationship, when she started to describe her relationship with her ex-husband and with George, there were ways that she described herself and her role in those relationships that were kind of elevating herself. So it was just a number of ways just descriptive ways that she used throughout the evaluation of herself that appeared to have narcissistic traits. And I heard you say about how she answered them questions about her education, how she answered the question about her employment, how she answered the question about her relationship with her ex-husband and George Torres. What other criterias would you tend to indicate that she was a narcissist? I didn't say that she was. I said that she has narcissistic traits and that that was the examples. That was the examples that I gave you. All right. Now, do you have any other criteria that she has the narcissistic type traits? No. It was how she presented herself. Okay. So that's all you saw that relates to any of the criteria that she may have the narcissisms. As I sit here today without sitting down and specifically going through my notes, yes. Okay. So now, do you think she suffers from a personality disorder? I did not diagnose her with a personality disorder. Did you feel like she met any of the criterias that would tend to support a diagnosis for a personality disorder? Well, we just went through one of the criteria for the narcissistic personality disorder. That is a personality disorder. Okay, any other criteria that you feel like she might meet some other disorder? No. Okay. Do you feel like she suffers from the post-traumatic, the stress, the disorders? She didn't give me the criteria with regards to that. She discussed having fear and anxiety of his family and fear that they would come into the jail or have someone else come into the jail and harm her. She talked about that. And she spoke about, having recollections, remembering abuse from George during the evaluation. But those were the things that she spoke about that would go with that. Please hold, y'all. Okay. But you don't believe that she suffers from the post-traumatic stress, the disorders, in your opinion? No, I'd have to look through back to my notes to see if she fully met the criteria. Can you explain why you don't think she suffers from the PTSD? No, I didn't say one way or the other. I would have to look back to my notes for that. Is that something that you may, in the future, give an opinion about after some time reflecting and reviewing your post-its? I may. Okay, now that's something that you will let the lawyers know about if that changes. Yes. You may already have answered this. You said that you felt like she met the criteria for this anxiety disorders. No, she says, so she definitely attributes and discussed with me that she has anxiety and symptoms of anxiety. And we discussed that. So whether it's attributed, hold on, those symptoms are attributable to generalized anxiety disorder, which is what she said she's been diagnosed with in the past, as opposed to an adjustment disorder based on what is going on right now. What would be the criteria that you would look for to determine whether somebody suffered from the anxiety disorders? Again, generalized anxiety, feelings of restlessness, uneasiness, so all of the general symptoms of anxiety. But it's typically related to numerous. With generalized anxiety disorder, the anxiety is not specific to one specific thing. It's generalized, just like it says. Anything can make you anxious as opposed to an adjustment disorder. It's related to just what's going on right now. Was there any criteria that you felt like she exhibited that would indicate she suffered from the anxiety disorders? Well, again, I think the criteria I think the symptoms overlap for the two disorders. And between anxiety and the adjustment disorder, correct. And those are restlessness, uneasiness. Yes, if she has symptoms of anxiety. So whether it's attributable to whether it's attributable to just an adjustment disorder right now is the question. The actual diagnosis is the question. The symptoms are the question. Okay, but the criteria would be restlessness, and I heard you say uneasiness. Any other criteria for anxiety or adjustment disorder? Yeah, there's a lot of criteria for anxiety. It can be, an increased heart rate, so any of the feelings that come along with anxiety. Difficulty sleeping, decreased appetite, anything that comes along with people being anxious. Okay, now, there were 2 videos, and you said you didn't watch any video. Okay, there's a video of George Torres lying in the bed and Sarah wants her keys back. Did you have a chance? Were you able to hear me just now? I did. Okay, there's a video of George lying in bed and Sarah wants her keys back. Do you have a chance to review that video or speak to the state attorney about that? No, sir, I saw no videos. Okay, you heard Sarah talk about her drinking alcohol? Yes, I asked her about that, correct? You got any opinions on that, about alcohol as it relates to Sarah Boone? Yeah, I think Sarah Boone has an alcohol use disorder. And that use, is that what we used to call alcoholism? We don't use that term alcoholism, but we used to use the term alcohol abuse and alcohol dependence. But those we don't use anymore. Now it's alcohol use disorder. How long has that term been used? This alcohol use disorder that came into effect with the DSM-5, and so I want to say probably 5 years now. I'd have to look. And your diagnosis says that she suffers from the alcohol use disorders. Yes. Is that based on the history she gave you? Yes. And she acknowledged herself that she felt her drinking was problematic for her. Okay. When I asked her if she felt her drinking had been problematic for her, she said yes. Okay, now you got any opinion on the impact that Sarah's drinking had on her thinking and behavior on the night of this incident? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think it certainly affected her thought process and behavior. I think they were both drinking. They acknowledged that. She acknowledged that. Now, in terms of the Sarah, what impact did Sarah's drinking have, in your opinion, if you have one? What impact did Sarah's drinking have on her thinking and behavior at the time of this event? Well, alcohol disinhibits people, so it probably disinhibited her. I don't know what her alcohol level was. They had, I think, 2 bottles of wine. Okay, now hold on. Y'all so bad. Like in my mind, I'm sitting in the edge of the room right here, and I'm gonna shout out right here. It was 2 jugs. Get it right. It was 2 jugs. Oh my God. You know what I'm saying? Or if Dr. Warner slipped in, like, okay, so first of all, when I do these voices, this is like, okay, like my dad talks like this, like this is what I grew up around, and this is just how I interpret. I mean, Owens kind of talks like that. So I would have loved for Dr. Warner to have slipped into like my southern mode and been like two big old jugs, 2 big old jugs. Okay, please hold. Let me get some water. Pardon me. Okay. Okay, here we go. So what do you mean by disinhibits? It causes people to, or allows people to do things they wouldn't normally do. So the alcohol, in your opinion, may have impacted her thinking and behavior at the time of this event. It may have, but unfortunately for her, it was voluntary intoxication. No one forced her to drink. Now pause right there. That sign right there. It was voluntary out intoxication. No one forced her to drink. Just keep that in mind. Remember what Sarah says, that she was being coerced basically for that second jog. Okay. Right. It was voluntarily, which isn't a defense. But the alcohol could have affected her thinking and behavior that night. Yes. And generally, you think if it affects people and that they are disinhibited, they would tend to do things they don't normally do. Yes. Anything else you want to say about that? Alcohol, how it affects her thinking and behavior at the time of this event? No. Again, I don't know what her blood alcohol level was at the time of the incident, so I can't tell you whether it did or did not affect her. Okay. And then I know that Sarah, before I came on the case, maybe just as I was coming on, she wrote a bunch of letters to the judge and the prosecutor. Do you have any clinical conclusions as it relates to her writing all those letters? Not without having read them. Okay. Now, on the subject of the battered spouse syndromes, generally, what are the characteristics that are present in an individual suffering from the battered spouse syndromes? What are their characteristics? Again, it depends on each individual, but typically they can be, and it depends on the abuse. So it depends on, if they're intimidated, if they're, they use economic abuse against them and try to control them, they isolate them. So it depends on each individual and in their response to that. But typically they're quiet and meek, kind of people describe it as walking on eggshells, trying to avoid conflict with the abuser. Okay, pause for a second. Y'all, did she just not describe what we saw coming from Sarah to George? Right? Like that, I was just like, oh, here we go. Here we go. Okay. Yeah. Where are we at? Okay, there we are. Okay. Wait, let me go back up here. Boom. Any other general characteristics that you have any other general characteristics that you haven't mentioned relating to an individual? Generally, I understand there's specifics, okay? But generally, the characteristics you would find in someone suffering from the battered spouse syndromes. I mean, there are, statistically, there are, underemployed, they're undereducated, lower educated, lower, although it crosses all boundaries. It's more prevalent in the lower social economic status. There are a lot of statistics on that. Any other characteristics than what you've mentioned here today that you typically see in someone suffering from the battered spouse syndromes? No, I think those are the big ones. All right. Now, within the psychiatric and psychological community, what are the criticisms about the battered spouse syndrome? I'm not sure what you're referring to. Hold on. Well, it would seem in the field that you would have some detractors for this condition. Okay, I know it's been tied into post-traumatic stress. You're familiar with that? How battered spouse syndrome is tied into the post-traumatic stress. Yes, it can be. Okay. I don't think there is an actual diagnosis in the book you mentioned, the medical book, but there is one for post-traumatic stress disorder. But there isn't one for the battered spouse syndrome, correct? That's correct. And battered spouse syndrome typically falls under that post-traumatic stress disorder. Is that correct? If they meet the criteria, they can qualify for that diagnosis, correct? Okay. Now, I'm guessing it's just a general question in the field. Have you heard criticisms about forming opinions that someone suffers from battered spouse syndrome or anything about that condition where they think it ain't legitimate, or that's what I'm getting at? No, I have not. I'm sorry? No. No criticisms. No criticisms, everybody. I know it's been in the law. It's been medicine for several years now. I think Lenore Walker is one who first developed the theory, correct? I'm not sure. But it's been 20 some odd years or more, correct? So it's an established, you would agree, it's an established in the psychiatric, psychological community that battered spouse syndrome is actually a syndrome. It's a pattern we recognize. Yes, it's not a diagnosis, correct? Okay. And as a result of that pattern, the individuals who are suffering from it, I don't want to say they suffer from psychosis, but it's an altered mental state. They may, some of them. Okay, have you ever not been allowed to testify as an expert on battered spouse syndrome? No. Or any other field, have you ever not been allowed to testify? No. What is your clinical and treating experience of the battered spouse syndromes? Again, we see them. I work in a crisis stabilization unit, so I see individuals who are involved with intimate partner violence on a regular basis. Maybe not every day, but certainly throughout the week. We'll have individuals admitted that have involvement with intimate partner violence. So how many people would you say you've treated for the battered spouse syndromes that you felt qualified for battered spouse syndrome? Oh, I don't know. Have you ever found that somebody qualified for battered spouse syndrome? Again, it's not a diagnosis, so it's not something that I would document in the medical records. I would document that they were a victim or had been involved in intimate partner violence, which is what we call it. But have you ever formed an opinion with the patient that, yeah, this person right here, I understand they've got instances where they've been a victim of the domestic violences. And so either they're coming to you to be treated or they're coming to you in a crisis type situation, and you find out that part of the reason they're in crisis is because them being a victim of domestic violence. But in terms of you actually assessing somebody, seeing somebody, that you could be able to actually form an opinion. Yes, I believe this individual suffers from the battered spouse syndromes. Have you ever been able to do that and form an opinion? That's the case of your prior patients? No. My opinion would have been that they were suffering from an acute stress disorder, which is the actual diagnosis prior to post-traumatic stress disorder, secondary to intimate partner violence, would have been, in my opinion. I would not have. Have you ever testified in court that somebody suffered from battered spouse syndrome? I don't know that I've said those terms. Again, intimate partner violence, and it's not a diagnosis. It's a collection of, symptoms that you identify or report that they identify or report. Have you ever testified in court before that someone did not meet the criteria for this battered spouse syndromes? No, again, I don't know that I would have used those words because it's not a diagnosis that I would testify to. It's a group of symptoms. Is it your opinion that Sarah Boone does not suffer from the battered spouse syndromes? No, again, I would have to go through my notes to fully formulate an opinion on that. But I think that she certainly was involved in a violent relationship. But you haven't formed an opinion one way or the other about whether the Sarah Boones suffers from battered spouse syndromes. I think I'm going to go through it to make sure, but I believe that there was a lot of violence in her relationship. She described being threatened. She talked about, the different kind of violence cycle and the different aspects of it. So most likely she does. I don't have an issue with that. Okay. And then, so to be fair, I know you only saw her for like a couple of hours, okay, 2.5 hours maybe, whatever the case may be. And you're trying your best, right? Hey, we're all trying to, do our job, okay? I know that you felt like, okay, she's been diagnosed with this anxiety disorders, okay? You think maybe it's more adjustment to the jail situation, and then you felt like, so you have that opinion, right? Okay, and then you also have the opinion that she tends to meet some of the criteria for the narcissisms. You said that, correct? And then I hear you saying that now, she may very well meet the criteria for the battered spouse syndromes. You may want to look at your notes, reflect on that a little bit more. Is that correct? Correct. Are there any other diagnoses besides those three that I just mentioned? Alcohol use disorder we spoke about. Okay, all right. I forgot about that one. Sorry, everybody. That would be the fourth one. Correct. And that was based on what she told you in terms of her history with the use of the alcohol. That's correct. Any other diagnoses other than these four? No. Okay. And do you intend on expressing any other opinions than what we've spoken about here today? No, I will answer whatever questions I am asked. Okay, y'all, hold on 1 second while I rehydrate. Uh, pardon me. So yeah, hold on. Let me get my water. So you hear all this talk about the things that are covered. Are you going to change your opinion? So on and so forth. Blah, 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 blah. The narcissism, the this, that. All these things going on, right? Now, in a second, we're getting ready to get into J, the state attorney. Sorry. In a second, we're getting ready to get into Jay, the state attorney that's going to question, and he's going to kind of round this out because, again, remember, this is Sarah's attorney obviously doing this questioning, and that's how the vibe is or whatever. So, there's that vibe. So, thanks, Tori. I forget to change it. So when we get into his thing, you're going to see how it all rounds out and the answers that come out that again will be like, yeah, Owens would never want her to say this stuff on the stand, right? At all, right? Now, y'all, hold on one second because I need to take a quick bathroom break and then I'll be right back. Please hold. Okay. Hello, everybody. Okay, sorry. I had to refresh my coffee and use the bathroom, and then Derek calls. He tells everybody hello. So we have a big old cup of hot chocolate. Big old cup of hot chocolate. That's so good, y'all. Oh my gosh, perfect for this kind of like dreary fall day that we have here. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, here we go. So remember, we're Owen's talking to Dr. Warner. Okay, now, well, I'm asking now, okay? I mean, you're the expert, okay? I'm not, okay? I'm not. You're the one that's evaluated her. You're the one that's given her the test, okay? I don't know the field like you do. You know the field. I understand you said, hey, I want to think about this some more. I want to review my post-its, see more, some more to see if, but in terms of right now, okay, without any further reflection, without any further, yes, sir, reading of your notes, any other opinions that you can think you could express in any form or fashion, with all this experience, almost 1,000 jury trial or 1,000 trials you testified as an expert, anything else that comes to mind that may be an opinion that you might express in Sarah Boone's case. Anything else that I'm asked with regards to how her diagnoses come into play with regards to her case, I guess. What other opinions do you believe you're qualified to express as it relates to Sarah Boone and the facts and circumstances relating to this case? Anything with regards to her diagnoses, I guess. Of those 4 things that we mentioned? Correct. Okay. Now, is there anything else you want to do on the case other than potentially go back, look through your little post-its to reflect on the interview and whatnot? I know we didn't record the interview, did we? Not that I'm informed of. Okay. I should have done that, okay, but we didn't. Other than that, the notes you reviewed that you were given to you, and then the interview and the testing that you did. Correct. Is there anything else you need? Yes, I believe I'm waiting to review the deposition of the defense expertise. Dr. Julie Harper? I believe so, yes. Dr. Michael Brandon? Yes, I believe I'm waiting for those deposition transcripts. Would it be important for you to review any other records, like medical records or anything of that nature? If there's anything that I have not reviewed that is disclosed that I've become aware of, I'm happy to review it. What about them jail medical records, if we were able to obtain those? Absolutely, be happy to review them. Anything else that you feel you would need that you haven't gotten to be able to express opinions in this case that you've mentioned here today? No, because I don't know what else is out there, so no. Okay, now you mentioned forensic work being about 50% of your job responsibilities. Yes, sir. How much income do you make a year on this so-called forensic work? I have no idea. I believe last year, I'm guessing, I want to say last year was probably like 100 to 150 maybe. Might have been less than 100 that you make on the forensic work. Correct. And the forensic work, is that a separate income from the salary you make working at that facility? Correct. Okay, now, how do they split that up? How much do you make in terms of a yearly salary at the facility you work at? I'm not sure what my salary is, in all honesty, because it just comes, it all comes together, right? So I have my salary, my base salary. I get extra pay for working on the weekends, which I do because we don't have any other physicians to do it. And then my forensic work, the bills are split 65% to me and 35% to the nonprofit. So if you do any forensic work, like on this case, right? Okay, then the profit or the income you receive, that's split up between 65% to you, 35% to the facility. That's correct. Okay, now, and how are you being paid in this case? What do you mean, how am I being paid? It's court appointed work where you've got like a flat fee, or is it by the hour? No, it's not court appointed. All right, you're being paid by the state attorney's office. Yes, that's correct. And do you charge by the hour? Typically, yes. Now, I will say this. Notice how she kind of is like a little bit slightly evasive, like about that answer. Like she could have just been straight up like, here's the thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, it's by the hour, but she didn't do all that. You know what I'm saying? Okay, hold on one second. Okay. Okay, let me scroll down. And what are your hourly rate for the state attorney type work? I want to say, I mean, I don't do the billing, but I want to say it's like $3.50 an hour. And do you know how many hours you have in this case? I don't. Okay. I have to look. Is there a cap on the number of hours you can put on the case, or just as much as I need to? Just be real ready to testify at the trial. I don't know, because in all honesty, again, I mean, I don't pay attention to that. My assistant deals with the financial and the billing. I just do the work. All right, now. And I know you're testifying here today, but it sounds like you may be doing additional work in terms of reviewing your notes, reflecting on the matter. Yes. How many more hours do you anticipate doing that type of work? Well, it may take me a couple of more hours to go through this. They actually want me to type a report. That'll take much longer. But they haven't indicated that they actually want a typed report at this point. Is it normal when you're testifying in something like this that you would need to report? I know in insanity cases, maybe. In incompetency cases, maybe that you would submit a report. Something like this, okay, for battered spouse. Is that normal to submit a report? A lot of times I do. The majority of my cases I submit reports. It's very rare that I don't submit a report. In all honesty, but I just think this case was rushed. That in getting her seen and getting to this deposition, that there wasn't a report, which actually writing the report helps me. Which actually writing the report helps me to formulate my opinions and get all my ducks in a row with regards to symptoms and pointing out how everything kind of pulls together. Even for the battered spouse, the syndrome cases, you submit a report. I would say yes. Okay, now have you been asked to submit a report in this case? In the majority of cases, I submit reports. Okay, now do you know how you would have been called to handle this case? I mean, why were you selected as opposed to, well, any other person, maybe, I don't know, in Orlando? Okay, Orlando's a pretty big city. You think they would have found somebody there? Was there some reason you had some kind of specialized expertise that you were selected over somebody here locally? I do not. Okay. And I don't know much about this area, okay? You would have to ask them why they chose me. I can't. Okay, I'm from the Pensacola area. I'm not familiar, okay? You pretty well known. Are you pretty well known in this geographical area of Orlando, Gainesville? Maybe that's the reason. I do. I don't do a lot of small cases in the Orlando area, but I do quite a few murder trials down there. Okay, now, so other than the couple of hours that you intend to maybe reflect on your post-its and anything else, any other work you intend to do on the case? No, sir, not that I'm aware of. And you've expressed all your opinions, at least generally, here today. Yes, sir. It's your testimony at trial. Is your testimony at trial, is that more expensive than the $3.50 an hour? I don't believe it is. In state cases, I don't believe that is. I think it's statutory mandated, in all honesty, what they pay. Just double dog sure. Okay, just double dog sure. You admit that you have no other opinions other than the ones you've expressed here today. Now, hold on, I'm going to pause for a second. It's almost like he was setting the scenario up. You know what I'm saying? Like he wanted her to have another thing on the stand. You see what I'm saying? He's so big on that. That I've been asked about. If I'm asked about something else, I'll offer it. and you've been provided all the resources you need to rely on and express your opinions, I have based an opinion on the resources that I have been provided. If there's any other things out there to be provided that may or may not change my opinion, and you agree that opinions are subjective, not based on authority, correct? It's based on my years of training and experience, but it's your subjective opinion, correct? Ma'am, I thank you for your time. Yes, sir, thank you. Okay, so now the state prosecutor is going to get up. Now we're going to hear his side of things. Okay. And he outlines that he pulls more out of her that you're going to see why. I mean, you've already seen why the defense wouldn't want her to be able to have full testimony on the stand. Please hold. But this makes more sense when we hear the way that Jay, obviously he did a good job, right? I mean, they won. You're going to see why the defense was constantly interrupting her and did not want this to go through. Okay, so Mr. J. Hello, doctor. If you don't mind, could you turn to your Aspire records that were sent to you? Let me know when you have them. Got it. All right. And on the bottom corner of those records, is there page numbers? Yes. All right. Yeah. So on pages 4, 14, 19, and 26, well, mine don't have those kind of numbers. Mine has 1 of 1, 2 of 2. Okay, well, in those records, did Aspire diagnose her with an adjustment disorder and alcohol intoxication? Yes. Alrighty. So that's their diagnosis. And then we had that discussion with Miss Boone on Wednesday about some earlier visit to a hospital where there are no records from that they diagnosed her with an anxiety disorder and prescribed her Xanax. Is that not true? I don't believe it was a hospital. I think it was her primary care physician, is what she testified to. And actually, I'll go backwards because what they diagnosed her with was an adjustment as disorder and alcohol intoxication with mild use disorder. Okay. So they did alcohol use disorder also. And her blood level alcohols are what are in those reports. We don't need to discuss that. Okay. In regards to the anxiety versus adjustment disorder or both, it seems that there is a past diagnosis for each of those, correct? That's correct. And for you to make a distinction between the two of whatever significance there might be in that distinction, you would just need more time to think about that? Correct. Okay, all right. Now, in regards to trauma, here we go, y'all, this stuff right here. Is trauma something that is subjective to the person who is on the receiving end of it? Let me just give you an example. One spouse may come home to another spouse and call her a jerk. And that person that was called a jerk may think it's kind of the end of the world, cry for a weekend and file for divorce. Whereas another person may brush that off as nothing. Is that a fair assessment or an example of how trauma works? Yes, each individual is different with regards to how they perceive things coming at them. So even in a violent relationship, where both people in the relationship may be violent towards one another at different times, does that necessarily mean that they're internalizing that as trauma the way somebody else may or may not? Correct, not necessarily. So just because somebody is in an abusive physical relationship with another person, does that mean that that is lending towards the criteria of battered spouse syndrome? No, not necessarily. And I don't know that we've talked about it, but it's efforts to control. But his efforts to control another person, is that a component of the battered spouse syndrome? For the abuser, not for the abusee, not for the victim. Pause right there. This is where we're getting into. Now they started to get some of this out in the stand, but this is where this is stuff that he did not want to get through in a cohesive sentence on the stand. He meaning Owens, and for obvious reasons. You look through the lens of what they're describing and tell me what the evidence that Sarah presented thinking it was going to make her look good presented. You know what I'm saying? Please hold. Okay. So for example, if one partner has the other partner's identification papers and when it turned them over to that person, is that an element of control, showing that the person is trying to exert control over the person that wants their identification papers? Yes. Giving gifts to another person in a relationship. Let's say partner A gives partner B a gift. And then still, when it's convenient, considers that to be partner A's property, even though it was a gift to partner B. Can that be an element of trying to exert control over partner B? Yes. It's coercion in a form of a form of financial abuse where you're, giving things and taking it away. Is isolation any relevance to a battered spouse syndrome situation? I know it's not a diagnosis, but, partner A is isolating partner B from friends, families, coworkers. Does that have any influence on a decision by a healthcare professional whether this is signs of battered spouse syndrome? Yes, yeah, I mean, that's one of the symptoms that you see in intimate partner violence. One of the ways of manipulating or controlling someone is isolating from their friends, peers, and relatives. How about if partner A is threatening partner B with legal process, such as arrest or following through with prosecutions? Is that an element of control that could be a criteria for battered spouse syndrome? Yes, it's threats and coercion. And I don't know, how about tearing the other partner down verbally, telling partner B that he or she is worthless? I'm the best thing that's ever happened to you. You'll never do better than me. Those sorts of things. Does that have any influence in this battered spouse syndrome arena? Certainly that lends itself to emotional abuse, which goes along. It's not just the physical abuse, it's financial abuse, it can be sexual abuse, it can be, as you're talking about just different certain types of abuse. Can a partner in a relationship, even without being subjected to physical abuse, be made to feel worthless and out of control and dependent on the other partner that says those things to him or her? Yes. Is there any sort of phraseology or words that describe that when there actually isn't a physical violence necessarily, but just the psychological violence? Just emotional abuse. And is that a diagnosis in the DSM, or is that a fit under PTSD or other trauma-related issues? No, it's not a diagnosis. Again, it's just something we would recognize, and you may have an adjustment disorder due to that, an acute stress reaction to it. So it's something that we could identify as one of the stressors that's causing the diagnosis, but it's not a diagnosis in and of itself. Prior to saying that a particular person has the signs, the recognized criteria for battered spouse syndrome, what sorts of things would you like to have as a practitioner besides just a history given by the person that's alleging they were abused? Now pause for a second here. So you heard all that stuff that he just walked her through, okay? All those things that they just talked her through. How do you think that paints the situation? Imagine if the jury could have heard that uninterrupted on the stand. And again, I'm not trying to say that things didn't go both ways, but literally, let's put it this way. The evidence that Sarah was so convinced would make her look good that she presented to help herself showed all this behavior. Most people looked and read any of that stuff and was like, yeah, this isn't going the way you think, honey. Like, no, it's, yikes-a-rama. Okay, let's keep going. There's only like maybe 10 or 13 more pages, or probably 10, because it's not actually 87 pages. Okay, now this part right here, y'all. Right. Collateral from other individuals who are familiar with the relationships, medical records that indicate that they've had treatment for different injuries. There's been physical violence, sexual violence. So police reports, if there's been prior arrest or documents, police coming out to the home. A lot of times they would go to the home in years past. Oops, hold on, I messed up. Sorry. Okay. But not result in arrest. Sometimes they end up getting Baker acted when there's violence in the home as opposed to arrested. So any documents that may lay out kind of a pattern of the abuse and turmoil in the relationship. So anything that is not dependent on the credibility of the historian. Correct. So, for example, if there's a video that exists of partner A accusing partner B of stealing car keys, the credibility of that is dependent on the person accusing the other person of stealing the keys, even though there may be other possibilities, such as, I don't know, just losing the keys. Correct. Or misplacing them. Yes, correct. When the historian of abuse has alcohol abuse disorder and gets acutely intoxicated, has narcissistic personality tendencies, even if they may not meet 5 criteria or whatever. It is in the DSM-5 TR. Are those red flags to take what that historian is saying with grains of salt and require extra corroboration? They are. It's just being in the criminal arena to start with is a red flag that you want to take everything and kind of cross-check everything that you've been told. Okay, now in particular with the history that Miss Boone gave you on Wednesday about the date of the offense, I know you were taking notes. Can you tell us, starting from when they woke up? I mean, I remember that being the question and kind of redirecting to that. Take us through what she said was her day and we can stop. Yes, it'll be a long narrative when we can stop as we need. Okay, now y'all, let me get a sip of water first because this part is long. Please hold. Well, I said, okay. I said, let's go. Okay, so she said that they woke up in the morning and he wanted to drink. She asked him if they could clean the house together in an effort to kind of distract him from that. She said they cleaned, did the laundry, vacuum, went out on the back porch where they smoked and drank and talked. Let me stop you there. Just so that we're clear. I don't know if we've ever clarified it on Wednesday. Did we take that to mean smoking nicotine versus cannabis or something else? I took it to mean smoking nicotine because she told me that she'd only smoked cannabis 3 times in her entire life. All right, now go on from there now. Thank you. So this was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon by this point because they actually didn't. Hold on. She later went backwards and said she didn't know what time they got up. So it wasn't necessarily morning. So by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they had finished cleaning and they were on their back porch smoking, drinking, and talking. She couldn't recall if they ate lunch, but he got a bottle of wine. They'd had half a bottle from the night prior and they got another bottle of wine. She said they went to Publix together and then they were on their back porch hanging out and they had a dartboard and 2 beach chairs out there and they were just spending time. And then she said he began thinking about life in general, got upset. She said she was afraid that she would get hit and asked if he wanted to call his daughters. Okay, now so from here, it's like really pay attention to the story that the doctor is reciting and the common sense that it would make of Sarah's actions with what she's claiming. Okay. She acknowledged that she knew his daughters would refuse to speak to him when he was drunk and so that upset him more. Then she thought she would show him her art. Oh, she thought the daughter would show him her artwork. But he then eventually called his brother. She said that he was sad and that seemed to be a turning point for him. And then she said she pushed him and tried to get him to tell his brother that he had pulled her down the stairs the night before. So very interesting, that thing right there about pulling down the stairs. Anyways, so when I questioned her about that, because she said, that she was worried that he was getting upset and didn't want to upset him, but yet she said she was trying to get him to tell his brother that he had done something to her the night before, which seemed like that to me, that would be upsetting, more upsetting for him. And she kind of denied that, said that they stayed outside for a while and then they decided to go inside. She said he was upset. She introduced a puzzle that they were doing and they finished it. Then they did some arts and crafts. And again, she offered that she was trying to unfocus him on hurting her and being upset, although he hadn't done anything at this point. She said that she was entertaining him for herself to be okay. She said it was a normal day for her. She was afraid all day. He was sad and upset. They listened to music, but she doesn't like his music. It's angry rap music about killing and hurting things. But he was dancing with the dog. And then she said they were sitting on the couch, and she said at some point he went to get cigarettes and came home with more wine. So at some point he just left home and came back, but she wasn't clear where in this lineup that occurred. Pardon me. And then she said, we were both laughing and having a good time, and then they were sitting in silence, and he said, you're it. And she said, now we have to play hide and seek. And she was it. So she went upstairs to take a shower while he was hiding and stayed up there for a while. And then she came down, she got out, she decided had enough time, and she got out of the shower and was coming down the stairs. She said there was a suitcase and some clothes that they had gotten out to donate, and they were trying to get that together. And it was on the floor in the living room. And that as she was coming down the stairs, she saw him kind of slipping into the suitcase as a hiding place. Now, I'm going to pause for 1 second here. So this thing here, right here, and it could just be like how someone says a certain thing. Because remember how like the stories kind of changed around the shower. She went upstairs in the shower. At one point she says she was laying down. Now, the doctor makes it sound like she actually took a shower. So regardless, it's like, well, what was he doing for that whole time downstairs? Why was he just getting into the suitcase? It doesn't make sense. I don't believe hide and seek ever happened. I think that's like the most idiotic lie someone ever made up. Jane Doe says, why did she call his brother that night, screaming at him about getting choked when she knew? I don't know where to go. He had been no truth over that. See, exactly, Jane. I mean, 100% agree. It's like, that's why none of this makes sense, right? Like, none of this makes sense. And here's the thing. If you were going to like pretend you got into some like next level BS like this, and you're like, oh my God, like things got out of control. I had to like come up with a lie and make this up. Why on earth would you come up with hide and seek? You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess she had to come up with a way, like, reason why he was in the suitcase. Okay. Okay, so let me scroll down. She said, I saw him in the suitcase and I zipped him up and we were laughing. She said, then he said he couldn't breathe, and I remember feeling I couldn't breathe when he was choking me or sodomizing. And I was angry and I took the suitcase. I lost control of the suitcase and it flipped. She said, my son's baseball bat was right there. He put two fingers out and I hit them with the bat. I know. And then she said, I know. Now I'm definitely going to die. This is what it sounds like. This is what it feels like. I didn't want to leave him face down, so I left him right side up. I felt if he got out, I didn't care if I died. I was tired of it, tired of living in constant fear. I don't want to live like this anymore. She said she said that she took the video and a photo to show him terror, which because she intended to show it to him the next day, and that's what she said about it. Now that right there, look at how she's like, I lived in fear every day. Every day was this and that. I didn't want to, set him off, so we went around to do all this stuff to refocus him. Why on earth? Why on earth would you then videotape yourself torturing the man in a suitcase to show him the next day? Why? I mean, it's literally the worst lie. The more it doesn't even make sense on a lying scale. Like zero, 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 zero. Okay, let's keep going. We don't have much more for those that are hanging in there. We're at page 79 of 87, and there's not fully 87 pages. Okay. And did she indicate that she just felt like there was this generalized fear that she had of physical harm from him throughout the day, every day? That's what she said, yes. Now, did she describe her relationship as sort of, she was a nurturer who was going to save him? Yes. Throughout her description of the relationship with him, yes, she did everything for him. He would lose his job. She'd go back. She would go. She would go to his boss and begged him to take him back and get his job back for him. So, she was, the kind of link to his family for him. She was kind of this almost like a savior kind of presentation with regards to him. I mean, I'd literally want to send her like a gift card over that right there to hear her say that, because that's exactly how Sarah acted about him. Hold on. In herself, and it shined through so much in her interviews and the way she talked about him, and it was so degrading to him, right? Like, I don't know George, I don't know his thing, whatever. Whatever. No one needs to be taking credit for someone else's existence like that unless they're your damn mother. You know what I'm saying? like there's just like the way that she was like, I brought you into this world kind of a thing. I'm just like, honey, no, you're not his mom. He's not your pet. He's not your slave. He's not any of this stuff. His name is George. He's a separate entity. So there's that. Please hold. Okay. Okay, where are we at? Okay, here we go. Let me scroll down. Now, did she ever describe that he tried to isolate her from her family? She did not describe that. Did she ever describe him trying to prevent her from seeing her son and spending time with her son and having her son come over? No, she did not say that he tried to prevent that. Did she describe him ever isolating her from her friends, preventing her from going out and seeing her friends? No, I don't recall her saying that. Did she ever describe that there were times, however, that he would take her debit card and her credit card and go spend money she did not want to be spent? I don't recall her telling me that. And that might have been something that was outside of the scope of your evaluation? Right. During the course of her relationship with George, did she describe that she went to her ex-husband's house as a place of solace to escape the situation with George? Yes. And that night of the incident, did she describe that there was anything preventing her from going to her ex-husband's house or to a neighbor or anybody else when George was in the suitcase? No. Do people who suffer from abuse disorder or a substance abuse disorder, other than alcohol, do people in that situation tend to lie about their use or minimize their use? Yes. Can you elaborate on this? Yeah. They teach us in medical school that you almost kind of double what a person tells you they use. You should expect that they're actually using double that amount, and they'll minimize when you ask them how much they use. It's pretty typical. Okay, and again, you went through the text messages. Do you see anything in the text messages attributable to the phone number that apparently is Ms. Boone's when the recipient is either George, okay, was either George's brother, Moy or MOI, short Moises, I think describing George in a poor light and saying bad things about George. Yes, there are times when she's, even texting George and cursing, as I said, putting him down. Did George, again, we're attributing, who's using these handheld devices at any particular time? Well, we don't know that. But in any of the text messages that appear to be attributed as being sent from George, did he ever respond and retaliate and speak with the same tone and the words that she did? No, not that I recall. Okay. Did she in those text messages ever threaten the process of arrest if he or members of his family did not do as she wished? I think, and again, if you don't know, then that's fine. Yeah, I don't recall specifically. I think may have been like one incident where that was brought up, but I don't recall specifically like who was involved in the conversation. Okay, now, as far as controlling identification papers, one spouse or partner doing that to another one, destroying things of value such as identification papers, is that a component of control that you can see in an abusive relationship? Yes, absolutely. I don't think I have any other questions. Mr. Owens, any follow-up? Yes, now, Dr. Warner, those are good questions by the prosecutor, and I've asked some questions myself, okay? Is there anything else you can think of that we have not touched on that stands out in your mind that you need to testify to here today to let us know every potentiality Now, of course, you know we want to know everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. So, is there any other catch-all maybe that he forgot to mention, I forgot to mention, that you feel like is somehow relevant, material, and important to this case? Not as I sit here today, no, sir. Well, that's all the questions I got. Thank you. Thank you. Again, if you have any follow up thoughts based on reviewing your notes and kind of having time to settle in and doing that, even though you work a tremendous amount of hours, please let me know so that I can let Mr. Owens know. Absolutely. Also, I know that I just received Dr. Harper's deposition while we were starting this deposition, and so I'll get that transcript to you. And then when I get to Dr. Brannon's, I will get that to you. And if you formulate new opinions that you have not already told Mr. Owens regarding, what they said, then please let me know. Yes, absolutely. We'll likely have a conversation about that, so we'll know those things. Oh, all right. So, do you want to proofread or waive your proofreading your deposition? I'll read it, thank you. All right, Madam Court Reporter, email address? Yes, please. Complies. All right, thanks, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. All right, look, bye-bye now, okay. That's just the legal stuff there. So, let me find y'all. There we go. So, here's the thing. Aaron says, Owen's asking the expert, is there anything I forgot to ask about? Oh my gosh, y'all. So here's the thing. Again, it's just so it's people who have followed the case, we saw this coming from a mile away, right? But it just made sense. My biggest takeaways from this were I completely see why he used the tactic that he did on the stand where he kept interrupting her and did not want her to speak anything, right? 100%. Like this testimony, just even the little bit that was there, is very damning. It completely it puts everything into context. You know what I'm saying? Like it puts everything into context of this is the thing. Sarah made herself out to be 100% a victim of every single thing. And it's like, no, clearly this was a violent relationship back and forth, but there's no evidence of the things that he's mentioning. You know what I'm saying? There's no evidence of this, but there is evidence of Sarah doing it to him, right? What I want to know, and I think we'll find this out in victim impact statements. I want to know, what is there, and y'all might know from channels that have done some major deep dive on George, is there any documented evidence of him being violent towards women prior to Sarah Boom? And I'm not trying to say that that's an excuse, because for me, what I think, please hold, is that he wasn't, and in this situation, either some stuff she made up or she pushed him to the level. And I'm not saying if someone's pushed to the level, it's okay, but almost like he was defending himself. You see what I'm saying? And she would escalate and escalate and escalate. And hold on. Aaron, thank you, Aaron, for the super chat. Aaron says, Owens talks to Dr. Warner about her testimony being subjective opinion, like their own Dr. Harper's testimony isn't also subjective opinion. I know, right? And I trust, of course, obviously, but not all the time am I on the state's way, expert witness decides. She was more they couldn't get the point through that it's not an actual diagnosis. It's these symptoms, it's these things, whatever. Couldn't get that through. Yeah, she didn't. Yeah, I don't believe that he ever hurt Sarah in an abusive way, only whenever he had to defend himself. Yes, that's what I think too. At this point, I don't even trust her black eye. I mean, I question that. And just like they said in here, you have to question the person bringing the information, especially when all A, B, and C are present, and A, B, and C were present with her. There's so much evidence of her lying. It is what it is. So, I believe she ran into a wall drunk, probably. Jay says the blue eyes dragon is right. Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot about that. I hope that so I want to hear his family get up there if they're able to emotionally, right? Um, I want them to get up there and I want to hear about who George was to them. You know what I'm saying? I want to hear about, we heard a little bit from his daughter, from his ex-wife. Here's the thing. If the ex-wife is going to be here talking about, basically, I read between it like this, right? Um, George was a ladies' man. George probably liked the ladies and liked the attention, and maybe he was good with the wet ladies and stuff like that. And that was probably because, like, basically, like the vibe I got from the ex-wife was just like, yeah, he's not an abusive man. He's a good father, whatever. But he ain't gonna be faithful. He likes his ladies. You know what I'm saying? That was kind of what I read into it. I feel like if she had an abusive situation with him, she would have been like, "Oh, please, Sarah probably suffered. She probably had to do what she had to do. Guess what he did to me." These are the kind of things you typically hear in those scenarios, right? And she was honest enough. The fact that she was willing to say, you know what, can't say anything about this man except he's a ladies' man. I mean, that's just a nice way of being like, you need to check his phone. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to check his phone, right? It's just, so I'm gonna believe that. Now, granted, she had the daughter right there with her. So, they seem like really nice people, right? She doesn't seem like, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt, looking at both sides because it's like, okay, she doesn't like the ex-wife, and the little bit I saw her seems like a nice lady. She doesn't seem like she's going to put him down in front of the daughter being there. But she didn't. Again, she was set in front of the daughter. He's a ladies' man. So that's just the vibe that I got. And please, Sarah, and somebody earlier in the thing said that I don't think that he was scared of I'm sorry. I don't think Sarah was scared of him. Absolutely not. That's a lie. She the things that the evidence that Sarah brought forth to show us does not show me somebody that's scared. You know what I'm saying? Mm-mm. She ran that household. She was in control of everything. Okay, hold on. Any girl says, I really think that when she told the detectives that George was notorious for running into the hall tray, I'm sure that was Sarah that could explain a little round black eye. Oh, I know, right? When she said that, like, run into the damn hall tray, can't roll my eyes hard enough. I mean, I can see her doing that. It got messy in that house. Not talking about the house itself. I'm talking about, like, messy, right? Just the videos we saw. Her getting up at 1:30 talking about, this is the phone right here talking about like, this is what I have to deal with. It's like, girl, chill. You ain't got anywhere to be tomorrow except Publix checkout with that jug of wine. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that she was surprised. And then trying to I also think her trying to make him call his daughter when he was drunk was another way to separate him from the family. She wanted him, she wanted to put that fracture. She wanted him, the daughter, to be disappointed. She wanted that. And I'll almost bet you that the family realized that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they knew, because you saw the way she talked to him, the family talked to her at different intervals in the text messages. And again, I just go by this. The way she talked to that man's mother, and here's the only thing. Like, okay, so, like, say, people who are like, oh, I had to go no contact. My parents, my family were like raging narcissistic, crazy stuff. So our family were no contact. We know this. Okay, there's that kind of scenario going on. And then there's like this where it's like, well, no, that didn't seem to be the vibe, right? Um, I can't imagine thinking I would be with someone after talking to their parents in the way that Sarah did, their mother and family in the way that they did. You could never. I mean, they did that. They went to family functions, but I mean, I would never show my face, right? She wanted to, she had him isolated. Not she wanted to, she had him isolated. Oh, hold on. Frocky, am I saying your name? I can't tell with my eyes. Is it Frankie or Frocky? Says, I wouldn't say Sarah's a mean drunk. I just think she is mean. She should be in sober present, didn't exactly make. Or wait, hold on. She should be sober and present and didn't exactly make her nicer. Yeah, I totally agree. I just think she's a mean person, right? I just think she's a mean person. She doesn't seem to, and that was the whole thing. Like when she got sober, we didn't. There was not like a oh okay, like we're on our way, we're on the mend. Mm-mm. She got worse. You know what I'm saying? Like she just doesn't have somebody in that same situation to victimize. There's no telling. Now her victims will be her cellmates, people who are in what do you call it? Her unit, whatever, and then like the state of Florida. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think she probably is going to do stuff like medical abuse, meaning constantly asking for medical procedures, things like that. Okay, wait. It is Froggy with a U, but no one out of me is better pronounce it right. Don't worry. Okay, I'm for you. I tried. I tried. Trophy wife. As I was watching the interviews that placed on SKR prior to the trial, I think she knew. Wait, I knew then she was the abuser. Talked just like my ex did. Oh, anyway, a lot of people said that too, especially people who have lived through a scenario like this with somebody, um, and they recognize it because like the way it's just how they operate. They they pivot themselves to be the victim. And then sometimes people, I mean, sometimes they get away with it, right? If she had not been as like out there, she could have gotten away with this. Nobody will ever know what took place. I think that she forced him to get into the suitcase, and he did it as part of pandering to her to keep the calm. All the things that she said that like I tried to distract him. He started talking about life. That meant she started doing that. She started probably going on and on about what a crappy hot boyfriend he was, this, that, and the other, blah 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 blah. And it was turning into a pander to Sarah evening, which was probably every day, every night at that house. And probably she was like, "Oh my God, you're so tiny. What a tiny little man. Get in the suitcase." And he's like, "No, babe, come on. Get in there. Come on, do it. It'll be funny. It'll be funny." She got him in there. I think that's what happened. Now, I think she also probably clocked him at some point upstairs, downstairs with a baseball bat, threw him down in the thing, something, right? Something of that flavor. But I think something like that is how she probably got him in there. Trophy White says my ex-daughter-in-law abused my son for 2 years. Oh Lord, I pray he's out. Yeah, Jazz says for the help of the bat, 100%. Leslie brings up a good point. If she was scared, where's the video of her cowering like George? Amen. Oh yeah, and whereas Griffin says, an excellent point. Look at the picture of George before the relationship and a picture after it. Who do you think was victim? Amen. She had that man beat down, and I'm talking about on multiple levels, right? That what do you call it? Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, he was exhausted. Why do y'all think we haven't seen a Lifetime movie about this? Not that I'm trying to like reduce his situation down to that, you know what I'm saying? But isn't it weird? Like you would think this would be all over the place. Maybe after sentencing. I just can't believe like Lifetime or something hasn't picked this up. It's just such a bizarre. She's a bizarre character. I mean, Nancy Brophy got one for God's sakes. We already knew Lori Val, of course, that whatever. Nancy Brophy. We haven't seen the movie because we don't actually. Yeah, okay, Muffin, that's an excellent point. You know what I would want to see them do? No, y'all tell me if you saw this. Okay, do you remember how they did that mockumentary type thing or whatever on the staircase. So it was like a fictionalized version of it. And they explored all the different popular theories that people say of what happened on the staircase to Kathleen. And they played each of them out. Okay. Imagine if they did that with this. Like, that's what they need to do. You see what I'm saying? Um, they need to like do a, like if they do the movie, show several options. Yeah, and somebody just said scroll by, but like I hope they do it. It could bring awareness for domestic violence victims and stuff. 100%. I think that these different scenarios, especially here, because this one it's so nuanced with a male victim. It's just not that out there. Yeah, Leslie says, okay, a moment for Tony Collette. She was amazing. What was the name of that? If y'all haven't seen the thing on the staircase, I mean, y'all, that was obviously Staircase, the actual documentary, but the thing that they did for TV, y'all, it was one of the best. It gives me goosebumps. It was that good. Carrie says, first of all, thank you, Carrie. Sarah's existence on the show never stop rocking somebody's boat. She absolutely deluded doesn't see it. I know. 100% amen to that. And thank you. Yeah, do one according to her story and show how ridiculous it is, Chocolate Chip says. 100%. Like, just show it. Let it play out. You're not going to be able to tell her nothing in prison when that movie comes out. Nothing. She's going to, I'm talking, think of the most famous human being you know. That's where she'll be. Okay. So, that being said, I have got to get going and get stuff done today. So, y'all, this is so much fun. Like I said, I recorded it. I'm actually going to go upload the thing and get it going now for the main channel, but it'll probably be next week or whatever before it comes out. So tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, I'm going to do a members chat. I'll post it everywhere. I got a bunch of packages at the Sofa Squad headquarters. We're going to open them. Like I think Jenny sent some stuff for the dogs and things like that and whatnot. So we're just open it and hang out and talk. I'll post it all here in a little bit or probably tonight. And that's it. I want to thank Tori. I want to thank Indy. I want to thank Emily for being here, for keeping the sofa cushions fluffed, for keeping everything running, and then obviously everybody for hanging out, chatting, talking, being respectful, laughing, all the things, being empathetic towards the victims and the different nuances of these cases. I think all those things are so important. So that's it. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'm going to see Morrissey tomorrow night. He is coming into town. Oh, I don't have it right here. Where is it? Please hold. Y'all hold on for 1 second for my Cure fans. Please hold. Thank you, Just. Okay. Can y'all see this? The Cure's new album. I've not gotten a vinyl since I was a kid. I already got it on YouTube Music. That's where I get listen to my music. Y'all, this album is amazing. It is amazing. Songs of a Lost World. It's already on your platforms if you like subscribe to like a listening thing. I just wanted to get this because it's secure. You know what I'm saying? First album in like 16 years, something like that. Y'all, and if you like Disintegration, Blood Flower, it's like that vein of the Cure. That's what this is. Uh oh. Uh oh. Come here. Look who's coming to say hey. Somebody just got up from nappy pools. Come here. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, we've been sleeping for like 2 hours. Hey, Daddy missed you. Daddy missed you. Say hey to everybody. Say hey, everybody. We're ready to play. Oh, I, I know. I know. It's exciting. It's exciting. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I guess that's it. I love y'all. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day. I will see you tomorrow morning, and then I'll be posting a video tomorrow to either be on P. Diddy or the Menendez brothers. And that's it. I will talk to y'all soon. Hasta la vista, babies. Y'all take care.